A couple months ago, I finished the Lingoda Sprint, where I took 30 language classes over 2 months, essentially a class every other day. And I made a video about it on YouTube that people are, I don't know, they seem to enjoy it. So I've actually continued taking classes with Lingoda, and it's now been 6 months. So I thought I'd give you an update and let you know if my thoughts have changed since the last video and how my actual fluency is going in Spanish. In the last video, I told you about how I had successfully completed the language sprint, but I hadn't actually received my refund yet. So I wanted to let you know that I did receive a refund. The sprint is not a scam, which I've seen people ask a couple times. So since I just did the standard sprint, I got 50% back, and it did take them 2 months to just go over and make sure everything was okay, but it was refunded to my account. So it's kind of funny because since the sprint, I've only taken 30 more classes. During that 2-month period, I did those 30 classes. However, in the 4 months following it, I've only done 30 classes. I took a month off to go on vacation because we were traveling. I didn't want to try to take classes during that time. So after coming back from vacation, I kind of settled into a new routine. It was really difficult to get that fluency back after taking a month off. But now I'm doing usually 4 classes a week, which is just one of the chapters in the kind of Lingoda curriculums. On Monday or Tuesday, I will do the first lesson, which is vocab. The next day, I'll do the grammar lesson. The next day, I'll do the communication lesson. And now I'm also doing those review lessons for my 4th class of the week. It was nice to skip those during the sprint because I could move really quickly through the material, but I felt like after the sprint, I was just moving so quickly and I wasn't fully retaining all of the information. So now I've started doing that review every week. I think it's just helping me go a little bit slower so I can retain more info. But it is crazy to think that because I've only done about 60 classes total, if I had done the super sprint, I would be at this level after those 2 sprint months, not 6 months later. For me, that's just kind of insane to think of. I would say my overall fluency has improved so much. My primary goal for the sprint was just to learn how to make a sentence in Spanish, which I definitely did. It's kind of crazy because I feel a lot more confident having conversations or just using Spanish. I no longer have to stop and think about what I'm going to say, especially in common situations like at a restaurant or something. I can order very easily, which has done numbers for my confidence. I'm able to have a basic conversation in Spanish, which I definitely couldn't have back in January before I started the sprint. I mean, I couldn't even make a sentence, and now I'm able, I sat at a coffee shop over the weekend and chatted with someone for 2 hours in Spanish. Obviously, I'm still making a lot of mistakes when I speak Spanish, but I'm still able to talk, which is crazy to me. And I can understand most of what people are saying and respond, even if it's in broken Spanish or Spanglish, which works here in Puerto Rico. So outside of the lessons, I typically will practice Spanish and pick up new verbs just using social media like TikTok. I watch a lot of YouTube videos as well because in my particular situation, I'm in Puerto Rico, so the accent here is a little challenging. It's one of the more difficult accents in Spanish because a lot of letters are dropped. The sound of certain letters are changed. For example, an R to an L sound. Just being able to tune my ear to this specific accent using TikTok or watching Puerto Rican YouTube videos has been really helpful for me outside of class. And I think because I'm doing just so much practice outside of class, it has also helped me improve my level a lot faster as well. I'll get comments from teachers that I'm really advanced for the lesson. And I think it's just because I have so much practice outside of class, and I'm also still reviewing the lesson before and after the class as well. I mentioned this in the other video that I think to really get the most out of your money for this, you need to be reviewing before and after class, because I'll still see people come into the lesson and they're just not prepared, and so they really struggle. And I think when it comes to learning a language, you just need to do that repetition and review to make sure that you've actually retained information and not just memorized it. I mean, these classes are expensive and I use them for guided conversation practice. If I don't know the material before class, I can't really apply it during the lesson very well. But there are some things that I'm still struggling with. We haven't done a lot of progression with verbs. So during the sprint, I made it through the A1.1, and now I'm working my way through the A1.2 units before I move into, I think, the A2 units. Yes, I'm like 3/4 of the way through the A1 beginner lessons. However, I wish we were making a little more progress with different verb tenses, though I know it can be confusing. We'll talk about the present perfect in class, but I've never learned it. Or we'll use like a couple examples of the conditional with gustar, but I don't really know it. Hi, Sebi. That's my cat. And there, like I said, I've picked up a couple past tense verbs, but I don't really know how to conjugate others. I know we'll get to that, but that is really, I feel like, what is holding me back right now to speaking more fluently. I also struggle to practice new words that we learn or new concepts if it's not something that I actually use very often in real life. We did a unit about shopping for clothes, which like I never go shopping for clothes, or anytime I would need to use that vocabulary, I would have to go back and review it again, or like the one for getting a haircut. I just don't do that stuff very often. And so while it is very useful vocabulary, it can be a little challenging. Oh, this also reminds me, sometimes the vocabulary is more, it's like what you would think of like textbook Spanish, right? It's not as much what you would actually hear when you're just like having conversations. This actually reminded me from the clothing unit. So what they called jeans were vaqueros, which it's the word for cowboy. And so when I posted about this on TikTok, people were like, I do not call it vaqueros. I call it jeans, or for example, in Puerto Rico, they call it maones. The nice thing about that is that the teachers will typically point out some of the differences in their local dialect or what they would say so that it's not too formal or too specific to Spain. So that's why I really like having teachers from all the different areas in the Lingoda classes, is because they can point that out and point out the things that are just like a little textbook and maybe not quite what you would hear in real life. Overall, I've been really happy though with my Lingoda lessons. It's actually funny because sometimes, I'd say like 50% of the time, I'm the only student in class, which I don't know why. Maybe it's the time of day that I take classes, but there will be like one class a week where there's 4 other students, one of my classes a week where there's like 1 other student, and then 2 of my classes per week where I'm like the only one. So I feel like I'm getting a private lesson for the cost of a group lesson, and I think that's a pretty good deal. And it gives me, although I dread those classes, I do get a lot more speaking practice and more like one-on-one attention, of course. And so that has worked out to be a very good deal. Even though I don't like private lessons, it's been very good for my skills so far. So overall, I think in 6 months, I have made an incredible amount of progress with Spanish. I can't believe that I'm somewhat conversational at this point. I never would have thought I would reach that level in just 6 months or 60 classes. I'm definitely gonna finish going through the A1 and A2 levels. And then I think after that, it's just I get so tired sometimes doing all of the classes. I think I'm gonna start doing like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, just so I get a little mental break from learning Spanish. And then after I finish the A1 and A2 levels, I will probably pause and maybe go back to working on French for a little bit. Just once I feel more proficient in Spanish and like I can just get things done that I need to outside of the house, I would like to go back and practice a little more French. My very casual, my very chatty 6-month update with Lingoda. I'm super happy. And if you want to join Lingoda as well, I will put my affiliate link in the description or in a comment, and you can sign up using that and get a discount. That's all for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.